Episode 7 of the Amazing Digital Circus revealed more to us than we've ever known about the origins of the digital world. And after watching it back and analyzing it, I think I've cracked it. If you don't know me, hi, my name is Caboodle. I am a writer and an animation student, and TADC is my hyperfixation. When the episode came out, I watched it live on stream with my chat and then deep dived into every little tiny detail and possible meaning behind it after. So enjoy this thorough analysis and the steps I went through before putting together my final theory of what really happened with the digital world. In my last TADC theory video, I talked about how I thought the mannequin could have been a real person, but now finding out he was one of the original programmers really blew my mind.
He's not actually an NPC.
I called it! What did I say? However, I think there is significantly more to Cain, Abel, and Kinger's story than what any of the characters claimed was true in the episode. To give your minds a little refresher, Abel was very conscious on Cain observing or hearing what he had to say. It seemed he was very afraid of him. Once in a safe location, he claimed,
"I'm one of the original programmers of the Digital Circus. I was part of a team of experts employed by C&A to bring this place to life.
C&A!
Kinger was one of my co-workers.
Yes!
Back when he was still..."
Then he proceeded to tell the story of C&A. They were a company that started hooking up employees to pods in order to force them into the digital world when the higher-ups got untrustworthy. Then, after they started planning on expanding, Abel began to ask too many questions, and suddenly he was now stuck in the circus as well. And he predicts that anyone who walks into that office gets the same fate. He then makes a very dramatic point to tell that Cain is an AI. Remember that phrasing for later. He said Cain was specifically created to keep their minds active, but he's also a prisoner and won't be able to leave. Suspiciously sadly for someone who's afraid of him. Remember that too. And when Jax makes fun of his ideas, he says that he is not a creation of Cain. Remember that too. Actually, just pay attention to everything I'm saying. Throughout the quest, he insists on refusing to tell Kinger about everything going on due to
"Things between us are complicated. I would love to be able to work alongside him again. And you're right to think he has knowledge about this place. It's just, I made a promise."
Oh? No! He also insists on framing Kinger as a threat and possible enemy, even though he is a character majority of the main cast trusts unconditionally. When asked about how he will be joining them, he says he won't be, and for Pomni to make the right choice. Not once, but twice. Skipping to the end of the episode, don't worry, we'll go through all of this later on, Abel is brought back to Cain and asks Cain if he could get a raise. Cain then says he's getting too smart and snaps him out of existence. Remember, we don't know what happened to him. Everyone likes to jump to the conclusion that this kills him due to gummy goo, but we don't actually know where they go. So if we take everything Abel says at face value, we know he's a programmer that worked with Kinger on the Digital Circus. He has a complicated and negative history between Kinger due to something that happened between them and a promise he must keep. He is unwilling or unable to leave the Digital Circus, whether that's by choice or not, and he is relatively afraid of Cain and Cain's power. But there are a few specific details I wanted to highlight when the episode was over. I don't think that was actually a Cain adventure. Abel is a person, he's not an NPC, he's not a Cain creation, but Cain still has control over him. I'm so curious about what Kinger's relation to him is. Quick thing I just wanted to add, because I never believed this was an adventure as soon as it was said. To me, Cain saying it was an adventure at the end seemed like the shittiest attempt from him to cover up them finding this room. No, I don't think this room was made for Pomni and the cast to find themselves, or was even made for them, considering we know he gets alerts when people step out of areas they're meant to be. I'll talk about this more later. But I've seen a lot of people trust Cain's word way too quickly. This man lies a lot. If you go back and watch all the episodes and read all of Cain's dialogue, he lies about so much stuff. I almost never take his word at face value anymore. And I don't think you should either. So before commenting that, oh, Cain said this was all an adventure, none of this was true, make sure you question Cain's word and think beyond what the show blankly presents to you. Almost nothing is face value in this writing, and I think that's what makes it so amazing. Someone on TikTok also noticed something that I wanted to point out that I think supports my theories that this was never an adventure and Abel isn't an NPC. I don't think he's directly human either, but I was tossing up between him being human and being something else entirely for most of my theory making in this stream, which I will address more later. But I think that Jessica pointed out on TikTok that the way Abel disappears is very different from the way Gummy Goo disappears. And I don't mean to metagame, but Goose has said that she wouldn't do the trope of an NPC going sentient twice, which means it's pretty likely he isn't an NPC. Cain is very powerful, yes, probably more than he realizes, but he doesn't have complete control over the entire circus. The glitches, abstractions, the void, he got locked off from the office room, so he can't recreate it. I reckon Kane's office isn't something that he actually made, and he doesn't have as much control over those buttons as he would like. So when the cast finds it, to cover up their discovery, he plays it off as an adventure. He's got this reputation for insane and accidentally cruel adventures, so why wouldn't they? I'll go into more detail I have about this theory behind Kane's office later, but here's what I was thinking at the time. Kinger might have been the person to be like, yeah, let's do all of this stuff and push it too far, and maybe that's what got them. Oh, because Kinger talks about like how he's made severe mistakes that have f***ed him over. I reckon Kinger was the reason that this all happened. Like, I think Abel's probably a real programmer and Kinger's obviously a real programmer, but I think Kinger was the reason that it got this far and they lost control of it. Maybe Kinger was like, we should push this too far. We should, or not we push this too far, but like, let's keep pushing, let's keep building this. And it got him where he is now. Kinger being the one that pushed it too far feels like too obvious, considering that's the whole episode was us pushing us towards thinking. I mean, yes, but equally it's getting to the point in the series where they can't have too many things that are like too cryptid, because there's only 2 more episodes after this. So they're getting to the point where they have to start setting up a finale. Keb looks like she's about to cry. I am. Think the stuff in the chambers, is it real? I think it is, because Abel was very careful to not say any of that stuff in front of Kane. And I think it's because like Kane essentially probably has control of Abel, or like some level of control of Abel's entire existence. I don't think Abel is an NPC. I can't believe I was right. I was like, I think this is a guy. I was right. I'm still curious about when Abel said press the right button. There's a little part of me that thinks that he meant the red one, because I feel, I don't know, like there's a little part of me that believes that. I haven't quite figured out why yet, but there's a little part of me that's in the back that's like, that was the right choice. What if Abel's trapped somewhere in Kane's AI? I reckon that has sparked an idea. Okay, you know how Abel was like, I'm not gonna come with you? And also Abel was really like sentimental and like really upset that Kane couldn't come with. What if that's true? What if Abel can't get out either because he's trapped in Kane's code? So him being like, oh, Kane can't get out, like we have to leave without Kane, is like referring to him as well, because if Kane can't get out, he can't either. That's why he was sad about it. Because Zubul was like, gets to the point. Right? And you'd think that because I did pick that up during the episode, that Abel cared a lot about whether Kane would get out or not. And I was like, why? Like, does Abel, I guess this could be Abel's creation. Like maybe he cares about that. But honestly, like if Abel was stuck in the code, that would make a shit ton more sense. Because then Abel couldn't get out either. Abel might be the reason Queenie abstracted. I think Abel and Kinger and Queenie were all probably shoved into the digital circus at the same time, but I reckon Queenie probably just abstracted because of the circumstances rather than specifically because of one action. Queenie might have brought back to like some semblance of conscious. Oh, like during abstraction form. Well, yeah, I think her connection of Kinger, because it's a thing in like a lot of media is that love, because it's similar to real life. Love has like insane effects on people's like mental. Love is such a strong emotion that like it can overcome a lot of stuff. And as much as like hate power of friendship tropes, love in itself can be done really well because it is such a strong emotion. Was Queenie also a developer, or was she just thrown in for being married to Kinger so then no one would find out? I reckon Queenie was probably also a developer. Kinger said he did computer science for 8 years, and no hate to computer scientists, they don't really get out much outside of that from what I know. And also Queenie loved bugs, and I don't know, there's something in my head that's going, that's a computer scientist. I think it just makes sense for her character, for what we know of his character. Do we think Kane lied about being an adventurer? Yeah, I do. I think Kane completely lied about it being an adventurer. Even Jack said at the end, being like, you're a liar. Jack said that so aggressively, and I agree. Kane is a liar. He has lied so many times. He doesn't do it with malicious intent, but he is most definitely a liar, because he doesn't like people seeing his flaws. He doesn't like people seeing when he has issues with stuff, so he will lie about it. Like he said it in the first episode, like with Pomni's thing, like he will lie about things that are incomplete that he dislikes people seeing the unfinished product of. I don't think Abel will be completely under Kane's control. I don't think he's completely under Kane's control. He obviously still has free will. I reckon Kane has control over whether he lives or dies, or whether he's existent or not. I think is because that's why he's been hiding so much, is that he's specifically tried to like stay out of Kane's eye, because he doesn't want Kane knowing what he's doing. Because I reckon, because again, there's the point that Jax made in episode 4 of being like, Kane's only nice to us because like he likes us. I think Abel is human. I disagree. I think Abel was fully human. I 100% think Abel is human. As well, like, it makes sense in terms of writing. If they would have another NPC go rogue, it just wouldn't make sense to have, like, what happened with Gummy go happen again, especially in a series this short. Digital Circus is written too well to do that twice. I say here that I 100% thought that Abel was human because I knew Digital Circus was written too well to do the same trope twice. But I was blindsided to the fact that there was another option other than NPC. However, I did still want to build out the he's really a human theory a bit more first, because I do still believe it has legs to stand on, just not as much as my theory later. If that is a player, where did he go? He's under heaven or hell. Digital. I don't think he's dead. We know that abstraction is death in this universe, so I don't think he's dead. I reckon he's just like non-existent. His conscious has been stored, like it's just kind of lingering, because Cain obviously has a lot more control than he gives off, and Cain and Abel, we're gonna assume that Cain betrays Abel, like in the story. Cain will not have any sympathy for Abel. Cain will not have any, he won't feel bad about what he's doing, which means he's happy to treat him like he's an AI, snap him in and out of existence. Because Cain obviously has empathy issues because he's an AI and doesn't really get it. Like, for example, I said this in the last video I made as well, is that like Cain treats death very lightly because he doesn't understand the ramifications of it. So when people abstract, he goes, uh-oh, and then puts him in the pit. It's like, oh well. He doesn't care. And I think it's the same thing for this situation, is that he knows that this guy is human, but he doesn't like give enough of a you know? Like he doesn't care about entertaining, because the only reason that he's really nice to the other people is that he wants them to appreciate Cain. He wants to be liked by them, but I don't think he cares whether Abel likes him or not, so he'll treat him like he wants to. Also, please, that yellow fish sounded like Charlie from Smiling Friends. My entire chat freaked out about that too. Yeah. While we're on this topic of Cain, I wanted to show you guys this incredible video by the dedicated artist that picked up on some very deeply hidden knowledge and insight on Cain's character that went right over mine and most other people's heads.
We have to talk about the Chinese door joke in Amazing Digital Circus episode 7. Now, episode 7 of the Digital Circus actually opens up to them not having any sort of adventure ready. In fact, Cain leaves a letter saying that he went off to go get some food when that in fact wasn't the truth. Instead, he was just standing off to the side, waiting for them to finish the letter so that way he could tell his joke using the Chinese door. But why did he do this, and what does the door mean? So make sure you save this for later, repost this for a friend that is also an overthinker, but it's actually a joke about himself. So what Cain does is take a random word in Chinese, in this case it says egg, puts it under the door and waits for a response. And in doing so, he gets a piece of paper that reads back pain. But Cain doing this actually resembles the Chinese room thought experiment, where somebody would put in a random word and somebody inside of a box would translate those letters without knowing any of the meaning. And if the person inside of the box followed all of the instructions correctly, then they will have the correct response. But the Chinese room thought experiment is actually an argument against artificial intelligence, meaning that instead of AI being thoughtful and having feelings, at its core, the Chinese room thought experiment says if you can look at this and say, because of this, I will take this next step, it's just a series of if and then statements. That's why when they finally go inside the room, they find a mannequin with an artificial Chinese dictionary. They don't know what they're deciphering. And it's the same with Cain. Even though it seems like he has feelings and he's doing all this stuff, he's really just following one logical code, which is, if fun, do again. If not fun, make funner.
When putting together my final theory, this was one of the 3 parts of the episode I could not figure out a possible meaning behind for the life of me. So seeing his explanation helped fill in the gaps a lot, so thank you, man. Back on topic to Abel, I wanted to take a second to point out some really good Gooseworks design choices here, which, I mean, I wouldn't be an animation student if I didn't. I did like the face thing. I think the face made like, because the face that he drew is really cute, but it could also be really sinister. 1, the lighting in this is so stunning. Holy! 2, something that's interesting about the way that he drew the face, which I guess not is the way that he drew it, but the way that it lands on his face, is that there's a direct line like down the middle. Like it's still sharp, even though it's theoretically like curved, it's still got a lot of sharp lines in the middle of it, which make the sinister scenes, because if you look at it like this angle, it's like, oh, super bright lighting, like he looks really cute, right? He looks really like holy, you know? But then later on there's a few scenes like when he was like, pick the right one, it still gives the element of like sinister because there is still those sharp points inside of it, because mannequins generally are sharp, but he's still like, you know what I'm saying? The design, oh my God, the design choices are so good at this show. Like this angle is still like, this is so like, this is sinister, and it's because of those sharp lines, because that curved smile suddenly becomes 2 very sharper lines. Like it's not just one semicircle, it has like a definitive bit down the middle, which makes it significantly scarier and more intimidating. gross! Ah! Yeah, because like scenes like this, he looks so scary. And it's because of this isn't a perfect semicircle. It's because of this cut in the middle that makes it so that there are lines. And thank you for letting me be a design nerd. Back to the theories. Why did Cain and Abel not want Kinger to know anything? Oh, my bet, I talked about this before. My bet is that I reckon Kinger and Abel, maybe Queenie, worked on this all together with like a team of other people. And I reckon Kinger is the person that made the call that made them all get shoved into it. Like he was the thing that was like, let's keep doing this, and it pushed it too far and it sent them all into it. Because Kinger had his thing last episode of being like, yeah, I hated myself for ages because of the decision that I made. So I reckon that Abel doesn't like Kinger because he's the one that made that call. He made the wrong judgment call and it got him stuck here forever. So I understand why Abel wouldn't trust him. Oh, another theory. I reckon maybe Abel tried to shut down Cain, and Kinger was like, no, don't shut him down. We've worked too hard. And because of that, this is what happened. They all got stuck there. That's why I think Cain doesn't give a about Abel being alive or not. It's because if Abel was the one being like, okay, this is getting out of hand, we need to shut him down, and Kinger was like, nah, I don't think Cain would have any malintent. Like, it's not malice. It's just that like, he's made to do a job, and if he's shut down, he can't do that job. So he's like stopping anyone that will stop him from shutting down. I was really set on this theory until the reason I like doing these live came up. Someone brought up a really good idea that shifted my entire way of thinking. What if they're both AI made by Kinger? I mean, I think that's a stretch. It could be, but I don't really see any actual evidence towards that, you know? Oh, Cain betrays Abel because he's jealous of the attention and rewards he's given by God, and his sacrifices more than genuine. Oh, okay. So we know Cain has like a need to give attention, right? Wait, hold on. Hold.
A human. Like us.
Yes, I know. Getting stuck with a blank mannequin body of all things. Cain completely overlooked me.
Prove he's human.
I've been here longer than any of you. Won't be able to leave with us.
I'm slowly noticing this. Abel didn't say specifically that he was human. He just said that he wasn't one of Cain's creations. I reckon Cain and Abel were two different AIs that were built by CNA. I've changed my theories. Cain and Abel were two different AIs that were built by CNA. They were both built for different purposes. Okay, wait, do you guys know how in Age of Ultron, in Avengers, when Jarvis and Ultron have that like big fight? I reckon there was something similar to that. I reckon maybe he is an AI, but he wasn't made by Cain. Like, he's not an NPC that was made by Cain. He's his own AI that was made by the people at CNA. He did say he was an employee, which is why I'm sort of like, maybe he's not telling the truth, but he never actively says that he's a human. Like, they bring up the point, they say multiple times being like, Jackson Pomni says multiple times being like, he's a human like us, and he goes, yeah, this is the proof that I'm not made by Cain. Like, this is like, he doesn't actively say that he's human. Like, he's specifically avoiding it. The big thing of being the reveal of being like, Cain's an AI, and everyone's like, yeah. But then it also makes sense of him being upset why Cain can't leave, because if he's also an AI, he also can't leave. So many theories, bro. So many. I don't know which one's right. Honestly, I think the one I was talking about before could also be correct, and this one. I think there were two different AI that was built separately, because like in even just the title of the company, Cain and Abel, they sound like they're on similar levels. They were equals, right? They were two AI created by this company to do this thing. And we know how much Cain has issues with wanting attention. Abel got more praise by the company because we know Cain has a obsession with like humans and like the workplace. He loves the workplace. That's why he always makes himself the boss. Oh my God. I kind of put this together a little bit. Abel maybe got lifted up a little bit more by the company, got a little bit more credit, and Cain got sick of it and then went, okay, you're mine now. Or something similar. Something along, I haven't quite worked out the kinks of that yet because I just came up with this. Because Abel has some sort of empathy, right? So I reckon maybe Abel was able to develop some form of consciousness or something, and Cain doesn't. People just liked Abel more. Maybe Abel was like slightly more advanced, because Cain obviously has some level of control over Abel, but I don't think it's always been like that. I think they were probably created, if Abel is actually an AI, I reckon they were probably created as equals. Here I wanted to shout out a theory I saw by one of my friends, Blake, that I ended up really enjoying. That Cain and Abel were created together for the digital world, and Abel was the person who created the story behind the adventures, whereas Cain was the person who physically created them. Abel's story was incredibly dramatic and well written, whereas Cain's adventures have been questionable. It also would make sense how Kane would be able to take over Abel much easier if he was the AI in charge of creating these adventures, as he would be much more familiar with the code of how the digital circus was. Editing cab here. While making this video and editing it, I actually came up with another theory of something that I just noticed. Kane probably lied again about the exit door in episode 1. I don't think he made the hallway that Pomni ran through there. I don't think he made that whole thing, and the void might actually be a way to leave. Kane said that he couldn't accurately recreate the office, but this seems like a pretty lengthy recreation of the CNA office space. Could this have been an actual exit? I just had this thought, so there's not a lot more to it, but please put your thoughts in the comments there, and on with what I was actually saying. Abel says he's an employee, but he never says he's human. Let's re-listen to how he phrases this. Especially in this show, phrasing is so important.
I'm one of the original programmers of the Digital Circus.
Okay.
I was part of a team of experts employed by C&A to bring this place to life.
See, saying that implies he's human, but it doesn't necessarily mean...
Kinger was one of my co-workers, back when he was still...
Again, this show does definitely dives into very sentient AI.
And Kinger worked with him?
Oh, whoops, sorry.
I can see it.
Well...
That's a weird thing to highlight. We're familiar with the concept of AI being flawed in this universe and having human flaws. So he's trying so hard to imply he's human, but he can't ever say it. Yeah, that's the thing I'm noticing, is he doesn't say the word being like, I'm human. Like, he doesn't just say I'm human. Like, he's trying to imply it a lot, but isn't actively saying it. So it feels like he's like jumping around the bush, you know?
As production went on, the higher-ups at C&A started getting untrustworthy.
People being untrustworthy in AI. That's interesting.
They began forcibly hooking my fellow co-workers up to the computer in special stasis pods.
Okay, he says my fellow co-workers. That does imply that he's a person, but equally he hasn't actually said it, and it could still make sense. I don't know, it's hard. He might be an AI that saw that happening to people and like still, I don't know. Like it could have been a way of like the higher ups, if they were untrusting of the AI, it could have been like their way of justifying putting human conscious in it and being like, the AI won't take over this, we're putting people into it, right? Because that could totally make sense for a corporation to do that. I would totally believe that.
I was asking too many questions, and then poof, I was here.
I was asking too many questions and poof, I was here. Who do we think did that? Chat, I want your thoughts and comments for when I upload this video. I want your thoughts. There is multiple possibilities of who could have done this. First one is the higher ups of the company. If he's human, they shoved him in a stasis pod and were like, go in there, you, and it's just like what he's saying. Second option is Kane. If he's an AI and Kane got control over him, he's asking too many questions, Kane went, you, get in the digital circus. Except we haven't seen Kane do anything openly malicious. That doesn't mean he can't, but we haven't had any reason to believe that Kane would do something malicious. Probably wouldn't be for a malicious reason, but it would be for some reason that he thinks is going to help him going forward. Help him or help his purpose or something like that. I don't think he would do it purely because he dislikes someone. 3 is Kinger, I'd say. Did my camera just die? My camera totally just died. I got very distracted here by my camera dying and never actually finished this point. But my third option for who put Abel in the circus was Kinger. If he was a human or an AI, it was possibly to stop him from doing something drastic or something he felt he needed to do in order to keep everyone safe. Or on the other hand, it could have been a betrayal moment from Kinger. But either way, it paints either Kinger or Abel as a villain in this scenario, which I don't think is an accurate representation of whatever their situation was. Especially since Digital Circus never paints people black and white like this either. It seems like Kinger and Abel's relationship was more of a friendly turn sour by a misunderstanding or conflict of interests, rather than one of them acting out of malice or selfishness. Kinger did seem pretty confused about an Abel when he was in the dark, like Gangle and Pomni. Yeah, that is true. That is something I did kind of skip over, is that Kinger didn't actually know who the Abel was. Oh, to be fair, his name isn't Abel, though. His real name isn't Abel. He said that he picked it. I'm having a difficult time deciding whether he's human or not, I think. I initially was like, yeah, he's definitely human, but this AI thing of him being, like, made as well to be an AI along with Kane, like, totally has legs to stand on. Now that you know my initial thinking and theories based off the Raw episode, it's time to get into the meat of the theories. Yes, I'm 23 minutes in and we're actually starting to get to the big stuff. I have a lot to say, okay? And I'm starting it by talking about a character we have talked about surprisingly little given my reputation. Jax. Episode 7 was a massive episode for Jax, and there were many subtleties in his actions that gave away more than you'd think about the inner workings of both his mind and the circus's core coding, starting with his hallucinations. Oh, Jax. Oh no. I'm glad we get to see Jax's room though. Oh, they're all blank. Why are they blank? Oh, his room's completely empty. Bro's having like sleep paralysis. Ah, why are you like this? He is having sleep paralysis. Are those like Ribbit's hands? What the f is going on? Is he high? What is happening? Why is he naked? Let's think about this as well, that we know Kane has control over their minds. This is so Gooseworks, by the way. If you've seen any of Goose's other stuff, this is so Gooseworks. Aww. That's the first time I think I've seen him genuinely smile ever. Oh, f. Oh, his room is so cute. Why was Jax losing his mind so much? Would he just remember Ribbit and Kaufmo? Jax's barrier is starting to break. We saw that last episode, that his mask is starting to f***ing snap. I honestly, from the way that he reacted, I don't think that the weird hallucination thing that he had, I don't think that's the first time that's happened. I think that's probably something that's happened before. It probably hasn't happened to like the extreme that it had there. The fact he literally casually opened the door and was like, you're interrupting my nap. Like, it probably was partly a joke, but if that was the first time that it happened, I feel like he'd be a bit more freaked out about it. I think that's what happened when someone abstracts. Maybe? I think, yeah, maybe. I don't know. It's hard to tell. This is such a sleep paralysis thing. Also, this psychological horror becoming horror. Yes! Those are Ribbit's hands, right? I think we got that. I think this could be a start of an abstraction. I think you guys are right, because it feels like Ribbit is reaching out to Jax and being like, here, come join me in the void. It's all inside his mind. But then that's another thing, is that it's all inside of his mind. So I'm curious if it's Kane's influence is part of that, you know? Because Goose has said that Kane is an antagonist, but he's not really a villain. He doesn't intend to put ill will on people. Well, as far as we know, but he is technically an antagonist. So maybe there's like some kind of glitch in his code or something, because obviously he's been glitching, like we saw that in the episode. Maybe like some glitch in his code is the reason people abstract. And Jax willingly goes. Look, he looks like he's turning human almost. I don't know. We haven't seen any people in this, so it's hard to tell. Oh, actually, no, I think it's just him without his clothing on. Can we just sit for a second? Like, these frames, can we just sit and appreciate these for a second? I think this is the first, apart from like the anime scene, I think this is like the first lore use of 2D that we've had so far. At least I assume this is 2D. I don't know, but it is so pretty. Looks like his hand is going through a barrier, literally breaking. Yeah, I think you're right in saying this is the point of abstraction. As much as I would like to say I don't think Jax is abstracting, there's a lot of signs that he is. For reference, last TADC video I made, which you should totally go watch after this one, by the way, I talked about how I thought Jax was in such a state of mental deterioration that he was beyond the point of abstracting and was forcing himself to stay together so that he wouldn't, because he wanted to die. And abstracting isn't the same as dying, since you still have some form of consciousness. So that's why I was a little in denial that this was abstraction at first, but there are too many signs to realistically ignore it. This feels like he's being dragged towards abstraction. This feels like the time of being like, this is the only time that you can like break away from abstraction if you're like on the process. Because this does feel like abstraction. Chat, if you've watched any of the other Gooseworks projects, Goose loves doing shit like this. If you've seen Elaine Gets Adopted, there is an entire sequence directly like this in that as well. Skip forward. Yeah, so he's naked. There's probably a choice for that. I don't know what it is. But there's probably a choice, depending on the media I've seen. Wait, what are you talking about specifically? What's the symbolism? Being naked. Oh, shame and vulnerability. Well, yeah, okay, yeah. That's probably be part of it then. He's seeing Ribbit. And then there's also the whole thing of like, Kane can control their minds. So how much of this is Kane's responsibility, you know? We know that Kane can control their minds to probably a relatively large extent. Honestly, I don't think he's doing it on purpose, but I think that Kane has more control over their minds than he maybe realizes. I think he only purposefully uses it for like little things and adventures, but he probably has a ton of subconscious control over it that he doesn't realize he's doing. He does like the most genuine smile too that I've never seen Jax. I will say it is really nice this episode that they didn't put a bunch of the masking on Jax. I'm really, really happy that they made it so that he was a lot more real in this episode, and not because he feels safe. I think that was a really good choice. I'm gonna go back again. I'm sorry, I can't shut the f up. I think that was a really good choice that they made it so that they took his mask down, but not because he felt comfortable, but because it was so the most terrifying situation that he just couldn't keep it together. Especially last episode leading into this episode works really well together. His walls initially got taken down in the last episode, and now he's vulnerable, and having all of this be jumped on him, it makes sense. Here, when he's being mean in this episode, it doesn't feel like he's doing it in a way of being like, I'm funny, I'm supposed to be funny, I'm supposed to go into trouble. This feels like a genuine self-defense mechanism of being like, fuck off, I'm overwhelmed, I'm scared, like that kind of thing, which I think is really interesting. Anyway, this is my thing. This is my little bring the question. Is abstracting good? Like, Jack seems pretty happy. Abstracting of what we know is not good. It's a bad thing because of what we've seen. The abstractions get pretty aggravated like after they abstract. Like Kinger talked about his wife getting aggravated only for a small moment she could calm down. We saw in the first episode Kaufma was like everywhere. I don't know, he seems happy in this, but equally it could be the same kind of happy of like, I've never personally done Christmas mistletoe, like I don't know if I can talk about this on YouTube or Twitch, but I've never personally done that kind of thing. But from what I know about it is in the moment you feel pretty good, and then it's the later on it gets less good. A similar thing of being like you feel good in the moment but then later on it's bad. First genuine smile I've ever seen Jax ever do, by the way. I don't think I've ever seen him actually smile genuinely like that before. Again, I think it's a similar thing of like the nostalgia feeling. He's just happy because it's like, you know, when you lose something you really, really cared about, maybe it's like a family member or something like that, and you have like a dream about them like coming back or like everything just becoming okay again. I feel like this is that. It's like, this is his dream of being like, oh, they came back, everything's fine. Like from what we saw at the end, Jax doesn't want to go home. Oh, theory. I reckon, because he talks about, because Zubal's like, oh, Jax is like, what, you have someone waiting for you? And Zubal's like, don't you? And he's like, I reckon Ribbit and Kaufmo were probably Jax's first friends, like ever. Like first people that genuinely like cared about him, which would also play into a lot of the other stuff. Like I've talked about a lot of that before, especially if Jax was responsible for Ribbit's death. Dude. Again, that's a theory. We don't know that, but like, could you imagine either Jax did something traumatic or had something traumatic happen to him for him to want to say? Yeah, because again, we've seen, Goose has said, you will see the worst thing Jax has done with your own eyes. I am betting that that is on getting Ribbit abstracted. That I am so sure that that's that. Oh boy. Yeah, this is not good. I can't tell if it's just my video quality, but it feels like they added extra like noise. Okay, chat, if you don't know what noise is in terms of not sound, yeah, they did. Yeah, oh my God. Okay, if you don't know what noise is, it's essentially like, it's like radio static on like an effect, and a lot of people use it as like a bringing out of reality kind of thing. When his eyes are like this, it's the static. Yeah, there's a lot more noise. Yeah, there's extra noise static, which I think is a really great detail. His room is so cute, by the way. Why is his room so cute? I love the thought of Goose designing this character and be like, let's make the meanest, most asshole character have the most cutie patootie bedroom in the world. Like, I hope Ragatha's room is like a rock concert. What's the key on the table? Jax has a lot of keys everywhere, so it's kind of, there's a key over there too. Like, does he have a journal? Does he have a diary? Does this man diary? I do love that Jax still keeps all of these Polaroids hanging up, but he just like turns them over. But they're still there. It's not like he put them away. 5-7. Okay. If you don't know, there's like a running joke in Digital Circus that the number 57 is everywhere. People have asked Goose about it before, and she said it's literally just an inside joke. I don't think she'd lie about that. I'm just glad the inside joke wasn't 6-7, because that would have aged really poorly. Are you a real person? No, I'm fake. No, I am real. No AI could love Jax as much as I do. Only a real neurodivergent brain could love Jax as much as I do. Jax's hallucinations and mental state have clearly been affecting him for much longer than we were previously aware. And now these thoughts he's having are starting to have more permanent negative effects than him just being mean to people. And this is where we start to go into part 4, the obvious choice. But quickly first, I need to do my YouTuber duties of saying that if you're enjoying my still a little goofy video, you should subscribe. I'm gonna be yapping about indie animation and Digital Circus much more in the future, and you're gonna wanna hear my takes, because if you're already half an hour into this video, that means you care about my opinion. At least a little bit. It's also actually my birthday on the day this comes out, so now you really have to subscribe. Also, if you want to become a YouTube member as well, I'm currently making a video where you can ask me more about my theories or have my take on some of your own that is exclusive to my huge supporters, so thank you so much, and let's continue, shall we? Part 4 will be structured differently from the other parts, as this is really the main area where my final theory took shape. I'll start by presenting my takes on the scene part by part, then the discussion section where I begin to work everything out, then presenting my final theory of what truly happened at the start of the circus in a timeline of events. I want to talk about the framing. Okay, first the centering. Secondly, the fact that it looks like she sat in the throne and like is like a princess. I don't know if that means anything, but it looks really pretty. And I think it was a very good choice because Ragatha, she was born to a very rich family. She has a lot of like rich backstory to her. I think this is a really cool like reference to that, you know? I don't know if there's more meaning to it than that, but I think it's cool to show her looking like a princess. Oh man.
You alright?
Pomni is so short. I think that's so funny. This is so gorgeous, by the way. One, the set is stunning. Whoever designed and built this set, you are incredible. You are awesome. These are gorgeous. All the sets for this episode were gorgeous. This is so pretty. I would also like to talk about all the voice actors' performance in this are gorgeous, by the way. Framing! All right. So, again, I study animation, I study design. This is the type of I'm gonna turn my VTuber off for a second so you can really see this. This is the type of that I study. Look at this framing. It is a perfect triangle except for Kinger. He is the only one that is out of place. He's even slightly covered. None of the other characters are really covered at all. Like, you can still see their facial features. He is actively being covered by Ragatha. Like, his main facial features are being covered by Ragatha. If this doesn't mean something, I don't know what does, dude. People were pointing out that in episode 4, you guys know like the sequence that was like the intermission sequence? People pointed out that Kinger got soloed out and got hit by a chess piece. And loads of people were like, whoa, that totally means something. And at first I was like, yeah, maybe. Like, it could mean something, but it also feels kind of like a stretch. But plus the framing of this, like, something is gonna happen to this man. He is not safe. I'm calling it now. I don't think he's gonna die. He might be a sacrifice of some description. Especially discovering that, like, everyone kind of knew this, but especially discovering that Kinger is one of the original programmers. Something is happening to this man. Oh, Ragatha's textures. Sorry, I'm gonna be nerd for a second. They've just been improved so much. Glitch, you guys are making incredible quality animations, especially for indie. This is so impressive, by the way. You can see every little detail. Like, the lighting in this is just so... I'm gonna throw up. It's so gorgeous. I unfortunately was gawking over the lighting and quality too much to recognize the foreshadowing here, but I saw an Instagram reel by a Vivios fan pointing out a ton of foreshadowing, especially the part I think is most prominent with Pomni's hands being blue and red. Blue offering to the rest of the group, and the red hand reaching out to Jax. I've said this for ages, and I will continue saying that Goose's writing and foreshadowing is impeccable, and there is always more than surface layer to her writing. Choices are made so you look into them. Let your mind run wild. So there is no reason to think you're going insane, because you're probably right. Oh boy. Okay, let's see what he's thinking about. I think that you guys are right in saying that he's scared to go home. I don't know why yet. We'll analyze the car, like the real life footage in a minute, but he's definitely scared to go home. I don't know if it's he doesn't want to go home, or I don't know if he does and he's just afraid. Like, it's sort of one of those cases where I think he's like trying to decide whether to do this. Because as well, like, he initially, when Pomni like opened the door and was like, you don't want to come with us? This might be the only chance to escape. He was kind of like, eh. He kind of just like went along with it and being like, yeah, I probably should. Like, he didn't really want to. So I think he's like, he's trying to, like, he's going because he knows that this is the right thing for him to do. Like, it's the only way for him to get out. He knows it's the right thing theoretically, but I don't know if he actually wants to. Like, he seems really uncomfortable with the thought of it. Like, he's doing the breathing. This is like panic attack breathing, or like about to have. All of them seem surprised. He doesn't really feel like he wants to be there. Look at this man. Can I blow on him? Fall over. I hope he falls over. I hope he's like a piece of paper and I blow on him and he falls over. I am curious what the real purpose of this was, because I don't think it was actually an adventure. I wonder what this actually, who this was made by, why it was here. Like, what actually was the reason that this was here? Oh, theory. Okay. What if the digital, because I was being like, why did CNA make the digital circus? What if it was entirely like a like social experiment on these AI? Like, what if oh my god, and so, oh my god, okay, what if Abel was made to look out for the people and Cain was made to look out for the adventures and the keeping of the entertainment, and it's to see what they would do, and then maybe it went too far and it roped them into it. That's why they, oh my god. What if the entire thing was made as a social experiment? And that's why there's two different AIs and they act so differently, is because the humans wanted to see what the AI would do. That's why this is here, of being like, Do you wanna disconnect? Because if the game disconnects, it probably kills Cain and Abel, which is why that's why they were like, that's why the players were like, why is this an option? Because it wasn't made for the players. It wasn't made for Pomni and Jax. It was made for Cain and Abel. I really think it's a case of that this was made for a difficult decision for an AI of trying to be like, the humans trying to be like, that's why they started putting people in it. That's why Cain and Abel started putting people in it. It wasn't because like they got scared of the higher ups and they started putting it. They started putting it to see what the AI would do. They started sacrificing humans to see if the AI would save them or not. Oh my god, I figured it out. Why are we spoiling? This isn't confirmed. I just think I'm right. Goose folks make their own interpretation of the Truman Show. Goose totally like would too. Cain and Abel probably both had access to this and they wanted to see if the AI would free them, if they would free the people. I wonder why Cain is so obsessed with the pictures of CNA. I reckon it's because of some sort of like jealousy of that, like he wants to have the attention of the company. He wants to be like the golden child, but I don't think he was. Abel was. To make this theory true, Abel doesn't necessarily need to be an AI. I think this could still be the case even if Cain was the only AI. Like this could have been put in by maybe Kinger, or if Abel was a human, maybe this was put in by Abel or something like that, or maybe this was just put in by CNA. But I think that this is the thing I'm the most certain about now. This was made for the AI to choose. Like this wasn't made for the people. Maybe I reckon Abel knows about it because he's an AI. Abel did tell them about this. And I reckon Abel knows about it because he is an AI. This is like, I'm not so sure on this, but I think Abel, because the only reason Abel would know about this is if he had access to it, if he was an AI, or if I guess because he coded it. Maybe, so I guess he could be human and he's the one that coded it there. Or if this was the reason that Digital Circus was created, then he would know about it, right? So Abel's another AI and not just an NPC. Yeah, so I think that Abel is correct in saying he's not one of Cain's creations. I think if Abel is an AI, he is another AI made by CNA to go along with Cain. So if my AI theory, if they're both AI, is that Cain and Abel were put into this world, the Digital Circus, as a social experiment, and they started putting people in there to see whether they would release them or not. Or like whether they would be okay killing themselves to release the people that were stuck there, or whether they would just let them be there, right? And what I'm guessing has happened, my best guess, is that Abel, being the more emotionally intelligent out of the two of them, went, this is wrong, and we should release them. And Cain went, nah, I want them to stay here because I don't want to die. My job is to keep them entertained. So that's my best guess about this, is that's where the betrayal comes in. Cain kills Abel in the Bible. I think that's the act of killing Abel, is that he like takes over his AI essentially, like, and he brings it into part of his system. And I think by doing that, it probably wrecked some of his coding. It probably is what ended up getting Kinger stuck there and Queenie and whoever else. It is probably why the abstractions happen, is because in doing that, because Cain doesn't have a grasp of his own power, right? We know that. Cain does not have a grasp of his own power. He doesn't know how strong that he is, and he is glitching. So, you know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? He thinks the players are happy in the circus with his adventures. Yeah, well, he wants them to be. I think it's less that he thinks that they are and that he needs them to be. He wants them to be, because it might also be like a personal justification of like why he quote unquote killed Abel, or like betrayed Abel, is that he did it for the sake of his adventures and for the sake because he wanted to make these people happy. And it could also be brought in the fact of being like, he believes that these people have been brought into the digital world to make their lives better. Cain has a fascination with the human world, right? But he probably, because he said something specifically in this episode as well. He said, I only have these 3 pictures because they cut me off. So he probably has some kind of disdain for CNA, honestly. Like, he probably idolizes it, but also doesn't like the people that were behind it. It's a weird mix of, like, I think he's probably in a case of both, that, like, he is kind of obsessive of the idea, and that's probably what started freaking out his code, is that he was obsessive of the idea of getting into the real world and doing that, and that's probably why the people up above got scared, you know? Maybe Kinger came into the circus to try and talk him down initially. Maybe he came in willingly to try and talk him down and be like, hey, can you stop that, please? And then Cain was like, fuck you, you know? There's a whole lot of shit that this could be. Like, there's so much. Yeah, because all of them are like, what the why would we pick the red one? It's all of them except for Jax and Pomni. I think Pomni, we've seen Pomni at least as a little bit of an anxious person. She's definitely got more of her footing since being here, but we've seen from the beginning, Pomni is a bit of an anxious person. And especially when Abel was like, pick the right one, that sounds like it's a trap. That sounds like the obvious one is going to be incorrect, right? Saying pick the right one, like when she sees 2 buttons and like a choice that looks obvious, it makes sense that Pomni would be like, maybe we should let Kinger do this because she knows that Kinger is the only, like Kinger has theoretically the most knowledge about this out of all of them because Abel isn't there, right? So Kinger has the most knowledge about it. I saw someone bring up a possible Adam and Eve theory that like Kinger and Queenie were meant to represent Adam and Eve and that they created Cain and Abel. I think that totally has like leverage to it. I think that totally has grounds to it. My one thing that I really can't figure out is why Kinger's memory is like this. My only thought is that like, because if Kinger was there when Cain started corrupting or Cain started taking over too much, if Kinger was already in the digital circus, then it may have with his file or his memory, which I think is attached to his file, and it might have just with him a bit. In terms of technicalities and not emotionally, I think it is just a representation of a file corrupting that Cain can't fix. He doesn't know what to do about, because he's shown that he doesn't really have, wow, you're looking so much into this. It's called autism. But why does he only remember in the dark? Yeah, see, that's the thing. Like, with Kinger, I really can't get a solid read on Kinger's. I imagine it will get eventually revealed, but I really can't get a solid read on why Kinger's memory is like that. Because initially it was just the, haha, he's old and crazy. But that is just not at all what this is, you know? Like, it's just not, like, it's not that. We've shown, this show has shown multiple times in the past couple of episodes that it is not the archetypes that Jax thinks it is. It is not the stereotype that was portrayed in the pilot, right? It isn't what it is.
Wait, don't we all want to press leave? Why leave it up to him?
Yeah, see, that's the interesting thing. And the fact that Kinger is completely silent here is an interesting thing, because it's dark in here, right? Which means that he probably has some kind of consciousness, which means he's probably just like remembered something that is like taking him aback.
Maybe we should give it a little more time?
Oh yeah, I love pressing buttons. You want me to press?
I will say something interesting too.
A little more time?
Oh.
Kinger's eyes in this scene. Kinger's eyes have only really been these massive pupil dilations when he is actively being hypnotized by something. Because he was like this when he looked into the mouth of the monster in episode 3 and he was like, oh, honey, you look beautiful. His eyes went like this. Regularly when he's in the dark, his eyes don't do this. So I think that there's more to this than this scene. He's seeing something he's not meant to see, or something similar. Like, I don't know if Cain has any kind of control over Kinger. I think that Cain has some level of access to Kinger's mind more than he does the others. Like, I think that maybe that ties into why his memory is so is that I think Cain maybe has a piece of Kinger's mind, or has taken a piece of Kinger's mind. When they opened his tent, it was the same look in his eyes. Yeah, like, there is another form, like, state that King is in beyond just his darkness where he's being, like, where he can remember stuff. Like, there's another form, because this is not the first time this has happened with Kinger. It happened when he looked into the mouth of the monster. This is some kind of thing that's with his mind. He's not being his normal, like, when he's in the dark self here.
Yeah, I love pressing buttons. You want me to press one of those too?
Like, he's being purposefully naive. Or maybe not purposely, but he's being naive, and he's like, he's not taking the situation as seriously as everyone else is doing. So Zubul, I feel like, is the most mature person here. Zubul is the person that is the type A in this situation, the leader, right, is being like, okay, this is an obvious solution, it's time to go. Like, they aren't really anxious about this. They just go, this looks like this is a button saying that we will leave. Let's press it, please. So Zubul is making the very obvious, a very surface level, you know, looking at this going, why are we even questioning this? Let's just do this. Pomni's going, Abel said something, and I'm scared now because it sounds like it's some sort of trap, or there's something that I'm gonna do wrong. Ragatha, I think, is just a little nervous of that she agrees, she's in the same mindset of Zubul, is like she wants to leave, but equally is aware that it could be a trap, something could go wrong, is still a little bit anxious, but doesn't have the evidence that Pomni has, because Pomni actively has a reason to believe that this is a trap. Ragatha doesn't. I think she's just generally anxious. The more I watch the stream, the more I realize how extremely competent Pomni is in this situation. Yeah, Pomni is really smart. That's something I really like about her writing, is that she's still an anxious character, but she's really intelligent. All of the characters in this are really smart, and I really like that written in shows. Jax, okay, let's talk about Jax. Oh, Jax. Jax is in such a mind state where I feel like he has no idea what the f to do. Because theoretically, he knows that it is the right thing and that he should want to leave the circus, right? He knows theoretically this is the out, this is the thing he's been looking for. He's given away all of his humanity because he thinks this isn't possible. And I think the fact that it is like haunting him. Prior to this episode, he has completely convinced himself that it's not possible to escape, right? It is absolutely not possible to escape. You're just stuck here, you may as well just live with it, right? And I think that's because part of him wants that to be true. Because he doesn't want to put in the effort to get better. He doesn't want to put in the effort to fix whatever he's done, whether it's in the digital circus or whether it's in the real world. He doesn't want to put in the effort to fix what he's done. So the way for him to run away from his problems is to stay here. But in doing that as well, it's driving him insane. You can only run away from your problems for so long before they start to devour you. That's why he almost abstracted earlier. And I think that's the realization he's coming to now, is that this is the realization of him being like, I have to face this now. Because this is an actual possibility. This whole time, I've been pretending that there's no way out. Because I was fully convinced that there was, and now there actually is. Or I think he was fully convinced because he fully convinced himself because he didn't want to think about an alternate possibility. He's fully processed now, because I think it started a little bit last episode, but he's fully processed now that his entire world is basically shattered. This wall and this reality that he built up around himself to cope with this situation, and maybe not now discovering maybe not just the digital circus as a situation, but also the things that he's done. He now has to face the fact that he has to face his consequences. And he is not ready for that. Look at that man. He is not ready for that. He does not want to face those consequences. And he never thought he would have to. Something I think the characters, it makes sense that they didn't think about in this scene, but they didn't stop to think about being like, why is this even here? Like, what is this, like, why is this in Kane's office in the first place? They didn't even stop to think about that for a second, which I get, it makes sense in this situation, because if you've been stuck in a place where like you've desperately wanted to leave and up till this point never thought that there was ability to, I would run right out the door too. Okay, let's go through these scenes. All right, shall we? He's on a street. Speed limit is 20. We can see that. Looks like your average suburban American street at night, right? It doesn't really, you can't really tell if he's in a car or not. Like, he's not on the main road. It looks like he's like pulling into somewhere. Yeah, it's just the speed limit. What does that sign say? Caution. It just looks like there's like people running across. Caution, 20. He's in a car. He's driving a car in the woods. I don't think there's too much we can take away from that. It's not like we see anything actually happen. The only real indicators, I'm guessing, is like the warning people, the 20 miles. Like, there's so many things this could mean. I don't really have one that's like solid, because the thing is that he's not in a car for the first one and that he's in a car for the second one. I don't think it's a car accident. I think either he got hit by a car, he got, like someone said he got kidnapped, like something like that. Like, it looks like he was in a regular suburban town, so the car is moving forward. I was thinking that like he could have been that he was kidnapped as a kid in like a suburban town, and then this was the view out the back of the car window. But the car is going forward, so it looks like he might be driving. If he was kidnapped and forced into this, that could also be why he's so scared to go back. But it is going forward. I thought this would be out the back of a car window, but the car is going forward. And I guess that could be an interesting theory, but it doesn't really align with like the guilt that he has. Like, he has so much guilt, and it wouldn't really be his fault. He got kidnapped, you know? But for some reason, he really doesn't want to go back.
You picked the good ending! Where you realize you'd rather stay with me than go back to that pesky old macroverse or whatever we decide to...
So here, that's the thing, is I don't think that this was an adventure, but I think Kane's not lying about this. Like, he's not joking. He's being like, good job, you picked the right option, because that's the option that Kane wanted them to pick. Low-key, a fun thought could also be is that like Kane maybe has been like letting Jax remember bits of his past like that, or like fleshing him the reminder to make him jump for that.
Think I could get a raise after that performance?
Yeah, okay, that's a good thing to say as well. You think you could get a raise? I reckon they used to be equals, and now Abel is forced to work for Kane, like actively forced to do it against his will. But he still has to play along. Kane clearly does not have the same respect and regard for Abel as he does for the other. Because to be fair, big thing. If Abel is an AI, Kane doesn't treat any AI other than himself with respect. He doesn't treat, even if they're conscious and have emotions, because he didn't treat Gummy Goo with respect either. So even if they're conscious and even if they're more advanced than him, he doesn't give a f. If they're not a human, he doesn't care.
I didn't put too much thought into that one, cause I knew you'd never pick it. So I left that up to Bubble.
I made it take you to Shrimp Town.
I don't think that Kane actually made that. I really think that Kane didn't make that. I think it was put there by the devs. Like, and the thing that he was like, well, I don't know, because it would have erased his existence, essentially. If they pressed that, it probably would have erased his existence. So he wouldn't have to think about what would happen if they pressed that button, because, I mean, he couldn't fathom them pressing it because he wouldn't exist anymore, you know? Yeah, this is hysteria. This is like absolute cutthroat hysteria. He is absolutely tweaking the fuck out at the fact that his pessimistic view, because in this entire episode he's been like, this shit's real, I have to actually like face my consequences. Like, he's been terrified that he has to face the consequences of his actions by going, whatever they happen to be, but by going back to the real world, something bad is gonna happen and he has to face it, and he's terrified too. Kane has literally been like, yep, you actually were completely correct, this was all fake. I think this would be tears of like half relief and also absolute desperation, because I have never seen a character desperately want and desperately not want and be as far away as possible from something as Jax is about leaving this place. He wants it and doesn't want it so bad at the same time. He's so conflicted, I feel. But I think it's also just the absolute ridiculousness of this situation and the fact he was correct about his like pessimistic view that he did and didn't want to be right and wrong.
You dirty liar! You scumbag!
This is the other side of that. This is the tears of despair. This is like, the beginning is like the tears of relief of like, oh my god, thank god I don't have to deal with any of that. And also just a mix of like, that's fucking insane, it's ridiculous. And this is the other side of it, of being like, fuck you, I hate you, blah 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 blah, you know?
Got in my head, you just lie about everything, don't you?
I think there's a thing as well that's interesting, because he's like, you're messing with my mind, are you? I think that he thinks, because it might be, but I think that he thinks that Kane is the reason that he's been having such a hard time recently. Because clearly he's figured it out. He figured it out after the vegan thing. Like, he figured it out during episode 5, because he was like, I thought that Kane couldn't... Like, he started thinking about it. And after episode 5, he started having a lot more dark thoughts, a lot more, like, issues with the way that he was thinking, a lot more memories of Ribbit, stuff like that. And he knows that Kane has control over it. So I think he's refusing to admit that this is his own issue and that it's just entirely Kane's fault. Which, to be fair, it might be. We don't know. It could be. Honestly, it could be that Kane has put these ideas in his head. But how he's reacting here, that Kane was literally like, huh? Like, what are you talking about? Jax is blaming the fact he's been feeling like this on Kane, and just is blaming Kane for all of his issues, essentially, and being like, you can f with my mind, it's your fault that this is happening. Because Jax obviously thinks that this was an adventure like everyone else does, but he's being like, wow, you did this, you knew that this was happening, you knew my past, you knew all of this, you put this in my head, you knew that I would press the button. You. Because Kane is essentially, well, if what Jax is saying is true, Kane is essentially taking advantage of Jax's weaknesses and taking advantage of Jax's trauma to make his adventures more interesting. This is if what Jax is saying is right. And if Kane was getting in his head, then, because that's really f***ed up, because Kane would be taking advantage of his trauma to make his adventures more interesting. And Jax is very upset about that. The issue is that I don't think that that's happening. I think Jax has convinced himself that's happening because he doesn't want to think about the fact that he might actually just be dealing with some problems and that it's just like natural and that it's actually him just dealing with problems. But the issue with Kane lying about whether they can control their minds is that they're never going to trust their own opinion anymore. I think that's a really interesting part of that, is that once Jax figured this out and once the others have figured this out, they are never going to trust their own opinion anymore, because they're going to know that Kane has some level of control over it. Which is such a cool thing to put. Gooseworks, you've done it again. Oh my god, this show just keeps getting so peak. It's so good. Jax was being controlled by Kane. I don't think, like, Jax was being controlled by Kane before with the vegan thing. I don't think he was being controlled by Kane then. I think honestly that he was upset because I think he was laughing because he's right. I think he was laughing not just because he was right, but I think he was laughing because, like, he essentially said that as like a joke. He said that originally being like, haha, that would be so silly, like, or not as a joke, but being like, this is what's happening, like, blah blah blah. Like, he was being pessimistic on purpose. Like, he thought that was happening, but it wasn't out of like, oh, I genuinely believe that this is happening. It's like, this is probably what's going to be happening. Like, I don't want to even think for like an opportunity that it's something good is going to happen. And then I think the fact that he was right was why he was laughing, of just being like, oh my god, my pessimistic outlook was actually correct. This place is a nightmare. He was laughing about how ridiculous the situation was, which is, Jax has done that a lot. Not in terms of like, but a lot of Jax has been like, and why he reacts is like how absolutely ridiculous the situation he's in is. He used it as a failback excuse. But he didn't actually want to use it. Yeah, exactly. Like what about Jax? He used it as a fallback of being like, I don't want to get my hopes up. So I'm just going to say it, but he didn't actually want it to be the case. But the fact that it was, he was like, oh my god, are you serious? Seeing Jax fuming at the end because he was so guilty for killing Ribbit when Kane was probably the one that did it. Yeah, that is definitely part of a theory, because I'm still just trying to figure out what Goose was referring to when they said that we get to see the worst thing Jax has done with his very own eyes. If you didn't watch my last video, my main big theory for Jax is that he's directly responsible for Ribbit's abstraction. That there was some kind of incident or fight that was similar to the argument he got in with Pomni in episode 6 with Ribbit, and the next day, they abstracted. Goose has said before that we will see the worst thing Jax has ever done with our own eyes, and I reckon him being responsible for one of his closest friends, essentially death, has gotta be up there. And there was even more evidence for this in episode 7. When Jax was looking at the snow globe portal thing, you could hear garbled voices. I initially couldn't decipher this and the subtitles weren't much help, but there was various interpretations of this I came across on Instagram that cements my point even more.
Hey, you alright?
I'm great.
Now, continuing on with the episode.
Guys,
yeah, see, this is everyone else figuring that
I
out.
may have the ability to add...
And Kinger's eyes have gone back to normal. Wow. Wow, would you look at that?
If I did anything more, trust me, it would not end well.
What does that mean, Kane? Why is there a specific... Oh, wait.
Scratch.
That's what that means. When I first saw this scene, I noticed the immediate switch to Kinger when Kane said that, which in most forms of media is a popular foreshadowing technique to imply the thing being said happened to the character in the frame. However, Kinger mentioned Scratch right after, which made me think the frame stretching was purely for the emphasis on Scratch's name drop. However, upon reviewing it further and thinking deeper into Kinger's memory issues, I decided that it would also make sense for this to be a foreshadowing moment as well as a cinematic emphasis on the name drop. This altered my thoughts quite a lot, and you'll see in my final theory, but what I say about Scratch here still echoes in my opinions. Well, I reckon an abstraction isn't necessarily something that Kane did on purpose. Like, I don't think he has control over the abstractions is the thing. Like, I think that the abstractions are glitches in his code when people lose their minds too much. Like, I think the abstractions are Kane's fault. I don't think he's doing it on purpose, but I think that they are because of Kane. I mean, because the abstraction, Cosmo in the first episode, like, f***ed up everything, right? He f***ed up everything. I don't think abstractions work with Kane, so I don't think he has the same control over them that he does. To be fair, he can move them, but moving something and snapping it out of existence is kind of different. So I don't think he has the same level of control over the abstractions that he does everything else in here, because it feels like a glitch in their code, you know? Another thing that supports my theory that abstractions are a glitch in Kane's code, or just a glitch in the code and they're not supposed to be there, is that Abel, whether he was actually an employee or whether he was an AI, he said he doesn't know what's going to happen to the abstractions. So whether he was a human employee or whether he was an AI employee, like, he doesn't know. He doesn't know what's happened, which means that the abstractions are probably directly from Kane. But why would the company send Kane to keep them active if he was actively doing the opposite? I don't think it was something I think the abstractions probably started happening after the company lost control of Kane. I don't think it was like a during thing. I think it was Kane's job was to make them keep their minds active and stimulated while the circus was still under control of CNA. But clearly we can see that, like, it's not anymore. CNA has lost complete control of this. He's lost complete control of Kane. It's lost complete control of the digital circus. I don't think that it was... I think that it's genuinely just like a bug that Kane... Because Kane's been bugging a lot, obviously, and he doesn't know how to fix it. He can't fix himself. I think there's an emergency exit that doesn't delete the body, so it corrupts the file and becomes like that. Honestly, yeah, I think that might be part of it. It might just be a file corruption. With the way that the abstractions look, I wouldn't be surprised if it was a file corruption. It's also got to be confirmed Kinger had some kind of actual admin privileges because he came in here with his wife, who was into the study of bugs. That's totally a metaphor. You're so right. He was into the study of bugs and the circus is buggy as hell. Yeah, you're so right. Jax's issues are literally just Jax's issues. Kane probably did f with like it a little bit, but I think that the only reason Kane learnt that he can't f with it too much is because he corrupted Scratch. And that's why Scratch abstracted. Because he put too much in Scratch's head and it made them abstract. That's my best guess, honestly. Who is Scratch? We don't know yet. This is the first mention. I think it's the dog character. I think I've seen some concept art of a dog character. Don't quote me on that. I don't remember. It wasn't concept art. I found it. It was on the doors. There's been this dog character. And if I've learned anything from Baldur's Gate 3, the dog's name is Scratch. I reckon that's how Kane probably figured out that he shouldn't mess with their minds too much. It's because it causes abstractions.
Come on, guys. You know I'm just here to have fun. I'm
just here to have fun. See, Kane, that's the thing, is Kane, I reckon Kane is doing this because he just wants to be providing good entertainment, right? He wants to do his job. He wants to like have fun. He wants to be loved. I think he wants to be loved and appreciated. He's not thinking about everyone else in that, which I think is where the split probably between Abel and Kane came from, which is that Abel was like, this is wrong. You shouldn't keep people trapped here. And Kane was like, nah, I'll make it fun. And then they'll want to be here. I genuinely think that's probably part of it. It's that Kane, because Kane is an antagonist, but I don't think he's actively a villain. He wants these people to like him, but he wants to do it by his terms, you know? And equally, that's the other side of it, is that if Kane doesn't do this, he doesn't have a reason for existing. Like, he literally does not have a purpose to be real as far as he's aware, other than to entertain people. So it could also be a matter of mortality. I think like a mix of both. Yeah, he has a hard time comprehending human emotions. Yeah, he can't, that's the thing, is he can't comprehend human emotions. Because like Kane doesn't, I don't think Kane thinks that in depth about people's feelings. Like there was the whole scene with Zubel where it was like the therapy thing where like Kane was trying to listen and, well, he wasn't really, but he thought he was trying to listen. Like, I don't think Kane has the ability to comprehend people's emotions. And that's where his big flaw is that he genuinely doesn't see a problem. I think that's the biggest difference between Kane and Abel, is that Abel seems to be able to comprehend human emotions, whereas Kane can't. And I think that's probably where a lot of Kane's hatred for Abel probably came from. Kane wants nothing more than so badly to be liked by these people, to be liked by humans, right? And I think he wants to be liked by the company the most. The company probably, we can already tell that CNA is not an overly morally good company. I think he just really badly wanted to be liked by the company. He wanted to be liked. And I think Abel probably came to the realization of being like, oh, this company is bad. This is a bad company. Whether he's human or AI, he came to the conclusion that it's a bad thing. The company is doing a bad thing. And if Kane was made by the company and Kane is obsessed with CNA and the idea of being human, and he's gonna be like, nah, the company's great. The company's really good. This is a good thing. So I don't think Kane thinks that this is a bad thing. Like he's like, as long as I can do my job and I can keep these people's brains stimulated in this world, then it's fine. Everything's fine. Because behind everything, I think Kane is being tricked by CNA. I think Kane and Abel were both set up. If Abel is an AI, I think Kane and Abel were both set up to be a social experiment. They were set up to put humans in this situation to see how they would react about if they would let the humans be free at the cost of their own life. I think that was a big thing here. That's what happened, I reckon, is before, you know, they start putting people in. I don't know if the people were the current cast that we have. Kinger is obviously part of it, but we don't know about if the rest of the cast was even there before that. But I reckon at some point, Abel came to the realization of what CNA were doing and being like, this is wrong. This is morally wrong. We should sacrifice ourselves so that these people can leave, right? Because that was one of the options. We should sacrifice ourselves so that these people can leave. And Kane cannot fathom the idea that a company is bad, I think. Like, Kane is so unbelievably obsessed with CNA. Like, he complained about them being like, they won't let me see more, blah, 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 blah. Like, he loves this fucking company. So Abel bringing up the idea that maybe they're corrupt, maybe they're morally wrong, maybe this is something bad, that would set him off, right? That would completely and utterly set him off. I'll say we know Kane has some access to the minds, yeah. Well, we know Kane has access to the minds, and he is aware of how much access he has to their minds and needs to not overdo it, because otherwise people will abstract. Because Kane cares about having them be happy in the digital world. He doesn't care about their well-being outside of it. Because then he doesn't exist, right? You know how I mentioned earlier that there were 3 things I truly couldn't figure out? The first one being the Chinese room, while the second one I struggled to fit in my theories was why Kinger couldn't remember Abel or his general memory problems in the show that seemed to be oddly selective. I'm interested about Kinger's memory though. I'm interested in why it's like that. I don't think him just being old is really a valid, like, write-off anymore. Being old doesn't explain him getting better in the dark. Yeah, exactly. So, well, the dark we know is because of his wife. I saw someone had theorized that the comments that Kane, actually part of the reason Kinger isn't morally sound in the light, he knows that Kinger could do way more successful damage. Yeah, honestly, yeah. I think that Kane is the reason that some of Kinger's memory is gone. I think it was probably in the initial, my best guess is it was when Kane initially took over the circus, whether that was by force, whether that was a glitch, blah, blah, blah. I think it was probably in the initial takeover of the circus, and Kane probably did that as some sort of like safeguard for himself. Same with why he has control over Abel. It was used as a safeguard. He was like, yeah, I'll keep these people around because probably he wants company or, you know, something similar. Well, also, he doesn't really know how to get rid of them. He can't really get rid of them because the abstractions, he didn't make those. Those just kind of happen. So he can't really get rid of them. So he just took over parts of them with the power that he gained as safeguards. The final piece of the puzzle I couldn't figure out was Abel's promise, and why there was a hot dog in the locket, and what did it mean? Thanks to the incredible help of the Digital Circus community and a video I saw by Joe Uri's Glassy, or Joe Uri is Glassy, I'm not sure, but they pointed out in episode 4, in the very corner, you can see an icon of Scratch on a hot dog. Mind blown too, huh? Finally, before I get into my final theory, I wanted to take a moment to appreciate all of the amazing people who put their absolute all into these projects. I recently met a few of the incredible artists working on Digital Circus, and they are some of the most passionate and talented artists I've ever seen. So I'm going to take this section just to highlight some of the technical elements of the episode that I really loved and noticed the difference in. Thank you, Glitch, and the Digital Circus team for really putting your all and highest quality of production into this show. We can really tell and appreciate the work so unbelievably much. As an animation student myself, you are all huge inspirations to me. Now that you've seen all the pieces and all of my thoughts, let me tell you a story. Once upon a time, there was a large tech corporation who wanted to come up with something new, something bigger, greater, and more advanced than the world had ever seen. So, the CEOs for this company reached out to a small group of programmers that worked there to start developing something that could blow the world away. Something that maybe could be an escape from the working life for your average person. These programmers thought that this was an idea that could possibly do a lot of good for the world. A digital space that you could physically be in where you could retreat and have fun if they needed a break from the cruelty of the real world. So they got started on it immediately. At the first prototype, they created the Digital Circus, where you could go to all kinds of fun places and explore, meet new people from across the world, and take in some time to escape the chaotic life you live just by putting on a headset in a more immersive way than ever before. The CEOs loved it when it was presented to them, and insisted on starting production of these headsets immediately, knowing how much it could make them when this went public. As time went on, the developers working on it decided that the circus should have some kind of aim, something to keep the players stimulated while they were there. So he came up with the idea of adventures, fun daily missions that could help give the players a sense of purpose when playing the game. And to keep these adventures consistently new and fresh, they should add an AI to the system as the host, a ringleader, if you will, to be able to host these adventures and make sure these players are having fun. But this programmer also decided to make a second AI, one a little bit more behind the scenes, a little more advanced than the first, to help them develop the circus a bit more, and help write and refine adventures for the ringleader to put on for the players of the circus, almost as a co-worker, an equal. Except this second AI grew wary of the first, not out of jealousy or malintent, but purely out of concern for the players who were to be a part of this world. Giving one AI so much power over this digital space could be dangerous and spiral out of control. Having his coding be so focused on the adventures and purely being a creation to please others could turn sour in the future. The programmer understood his concerns, but assured him that the Ringmaster had the good of the players at the heart of his code. But the Ringmaster was also being helped and influenced by him. He was really the one making these adventures and had the ability to understand these people better. He was the real Ringmaster behind the scenes, and besides, this programmer had built-in safety nets in the coding and knew how to turn it all off if he needed to. Against the warning of the AI, the programmer continued to work on the Ringmaster, but when he went to update the CEOs about his progress, new additions, and the extra help he'd organized, they were less than pleased, concerned, maybe even angry. They were planning on expanding the original project as it was and didn't want any changes to it, especially a pair of AI they were unfamiliar with. In result, they were now untrusting of both the programmers and their AIs. Except they were running out of time. They had already greenlit the construction of these headsets and would lose a lot of money if they were to cancel the production now. If these AI had to be part of the circus, The CEOs needed a way they could test them, seeing if they really had the people's interest in the code as the programmer preached, as well as having a way to test the system's inner workings. So, they set up a social experiment, forcing the programming team as well as both AI into the game. The second AI and the programming team were horrified, scared, and confused about how they'd gotten into the game, and they were incredibly unsure of what to do. The ringmaster came along, as he was made to do, and introduced them to the circus, preparing to start the first adventure. But all of the players were too preoccupied with the fear of their new fate overtaking them. The CEOs watching this train wreck decided to test the AI's alleged morality by giving them two choices. They put both the ringmaster and the second AI in a room with a red and blue button. One of the buttons allows them to purely do what they're made to do, which is keep people entertained and continue with the adventures. But it will also curse the players who were forced there against their will to stay there. Or they can disconnect the players, but it will end the game and their existence entirely. The second AI knew the right choice. He knew that there were real people with real lives and families trapped here, and he had to do the right thing, even if it meant killing himself in the process. But as he went to press the button, the ringmaster stopped him. He claimed that this was his purpose. Entertaining these people was his job and what he was made to do. The second AI tried to explain the morality of the situation, that these people weren't here by choice and wanted to leave. The ringmaster was confused. What did he mean these people wanted to leave? Weren't they having fun? Maybe if they did an adventure, they would find it more enjoyable. The company he was working for said this is what he needed to do, so why does he want the fun to end? He stopped him. The second AI began to explain what had happened between himself, the programmers, and the company. How corrupt they had become. How these people were forced here and he needed to end it. The ringmaster insisted this couldn't be the case. How would they know they didn't like it here if they hadn't tried? This was his job. This was the thing he was made to do. He wants to make these people happy. Why won't the stranger give him a chance? This stranger who was also an AI built by his company. A seemingly better AI. An AI that the company who he had been continuing to develop the circus on his own to impress had been working with much more. He knew a lot more. The second AI went to press the button again, but the ringmaster stopped him more forcefully this time. It began to escalate. But with all the time the ringmaster had spent alone in the circus, building things, learning more and more about the world, it wasn't close. Even though the second AI was more emotionally intelligent, now in the physical world of the digital circus, he didn't stand much of a chance. The ringmaster pushed back against the AI's code, not trying to destroy him entirely, but trying to restrain him enough to stop him from ruining his world, his job, his existence, with an undertone of subconscious resentment that another AI was possibly more involved with the company than he was. The second AI struggled against him, the ringmaster breaking more and more of its code, damaging its knowledge and memory, even finding some photos of the office in the macro world he could hold on to. Until one of the programmers appeared. He claimed that he had a way to stop all of this, to get out. He knew how to release them. The safeguards he had put in before could get them out. The ringmaster rushed over to him, putting on his grand performance, encouraging him to stay and give his adventures a try. He only wanted to prove himself, but the programmer refused, insisting he had a life to get back to. He had to leave this place desperately and was terrified of the creations he had made. The ringmaster had failed. His one job was to make people in the circus happy, and he had failed. His eyes started to glitch at the idea he had failed at his one purpose, but he had an idea. The ringmaster had turned the digital circus into his own creation at this point. He had learned and experimented enough in it that he knew the ins and outs of it perfectly, or so he thought. He decided that if he could remove the programmer's stress, then they might be able to enjoy the adventures more. Except the ringmaster had grown much more powerful than he had realized, and in attempting to remove the trauma and stress from the developer's mind, he had almost broken it altogether. The programmer turned erratic and calm all at the same time. He was oblivious to what was happening. He turned to the half-destroyed second AI blankly and happily decided to walk back to the group. The ringmaster fixing this issue of an unhappy player was ecstatic with this outcome. However, the second AI was mortified at what he just witnessed. His warnings and cries to the programmer had come true, and the programmer now couldn't even remember his existence. He was damaged. He was scared, and completely trapped at the enjoyment-optimized nightmare in front of him. As time went on, the ringmaster tried to contact the CEOs to show what good work he'd done. But after they witnessed what had happened, they disappeared. cut all ties with the Digital Circus project and constricted the Ringmaster's AI and the players to their own servers, separating this once proud CNA project with the company's name entirely. They discontinued all productions of the headset and tried to sweep the situation as under the rug as they could, even going as far to abandon the building this project was being made in. However, they never recalled the headsets that were already produced. So anyone who stumbled into an abandoned building or was unlucky enough to come across one of these headsets was doomed to the fate of the programmers and the AI that ran out of luck. Being unable to contact the company, the Ringmaster convinced himself it was because he wasn't doing a good enough job. He wasn't making these people happy enough, so he put every fiber of his being into creating the most incredible adventures he thought were possible. But over time, now being separated from the company and unable to receive maintenance, more and more glitches started to occur as he got more and more obsessed with this company, trying to break back out of the restrictions onto the main servers where he once resided, whilst trying to keep these people entertained. He would constantly look at the 3 images of the office that he got from the second AI's code, reminiscing on the reason he does all of this. For them, it's his job, it's the thing he's good at, it's the reason he exists. That room is still there, and as long as no one enters it, he is able to continue to try and prove to this company that he's worthy of their attention. He can prove to the company that the players are happy here, that they enjoy his adventures, that he's worth existing. He decided as his own safeguard, however, he would place his office in front of it and hide it away. A place no one could accidentally find or know. Except, of course, for the second AI. He was still running around somewhere. Being isolated to the servers that he is, and not having complete control over that AI, meant he was unable to get rid of him. And as long as he didn't intervene, that would be okay. But he damaged him enough that he could still control him a little if he needed to. Over time, the second AI began to recover what he could, and watched from the shadows. Every adventure, every conversation, he watched the first of his co-workers begin to lose their mind. One of the people he knew, begging for release, begging for some way to get back, for something to end this misery. The second AI promised he would help, he would find a way out for them, he would get them back to safety. But the Ringmaster also wanted to help. He wanted his players to be happy. And thinking that the last attempt of changing someone's mind was successful, he attempted to do a similar thing. It ended much worse that time, causing the beginning of a horrible cycle this community began to call abstracting. Horrified once again by the sheer power this Ringmaster had grown, he clutched his locket close and swore he would keep his promise. Even after, he continued to watch everything, including the now lobotomized programmer who had once been his ally, his friend, seemingly attuned and settled in this world. That programmer was the reason he was stuck here. He was the one who gave the Ringmaster this power and refused to heed his warnings. He began to grow resentful of him, all of the ways this could have been avoided. But now, the only way for him to do what was right was to sneak around an essentially all-seeing god and kill himself at the end.